Well, hey everybody, and welcome back to the channel. It's a beach day for me here along the sunny Gulf Coast of Florida. As I was coming down here this morning, I met a lady from Ontario, Canada, and I asked her, how did you get here? Did you fly or drive? And they said they drove all the way down. I said, well, I only live about 30 minutes from here. And she said, you're very fortunate. And I said, yes, ma'am, I believe that I am. Well, today I'd like to share with you just a very quick video about the different things that convinced me to retire. Well, believe it or not, there's a very happy and fulfilling life out there beyond work. And the older I got, I began to long for something more in my life. And there was a lot of reasons that I was convinced that it was time for me to retire. But for today's video, I've reduced it down to 8, so here we go. Number 1, I was experiencing burnout on my job. I was physically and mentally exhausted. I suppose I could say I was also emotionally exhausted. I was just tapped out, drained, dissipated, and depleted. I had the kind of fatigue that sleep didn't fix, that vacations didn't fix, and weekends off didn't fix. I was just running on empty all of the time, and whenever you're fatigued all the time and you simply cannot recover no matter what you do, then you know it's time. It's time to get out of the rat race. Number 2, a second reason that I was convinced that it was time for me to retire is I just wanted to be free. Now, this isn't intangible, but for me, I just wanted to be free. I worked for 50 years, and you know what? That's enough. I don't care how you slice it or dice it. You work for 50 years, you've worked long enough. I suppose I started working when I was 14 or 15 years old, and after a lifetime of working, it was the only thing that I ever knew. And yes, it can be a little intimidating to leave work, because when you leave work, you're losing your income, you're losing your guaranteed paycheck every week or every weekly or monthly, what have you, your benefits and things like that. And quite frankly, you can feel like you're cutting yourself off from life support. And so it is a little bit intimidating to leave work, but the urge and the longing to be free was overpowering. And after I retired and got out here, guess what I figured out? It's not the end. Retirement is not the end. It's not the end of the world. In fact, it is actually the beginning of a brand new life and a much better life. So if you're experiencing burnout and you know that you just want to be free, let me encourage you to seriously consider pulling the trigger as soon as you can rather than later. I discovered that there's a whole new life out there. And what I love most, the thing that makes my life better every single day, is the personal freedom that I now have. Would you rather be doing something like this or sitting in a cubicle? Yeah, I know, me too. Number 3, a third reason that I knew that it was time to retire, and I was convinced that it was time, I was financially ready. Now, I've been a saver all of my life. I made contributions to my IRA and that kind of thing, and I saved money so that I would have access to an after-tax account when I retired. So I felt pretty good about all of that, but nevertheless, I still needed to know that the numbers were good. So I started crunching the numbers. I mean, 6 ways from Sunday, every way possible, and then I suddenly realized yes, I can do this. I can do this. I can retire on what I got. And for years, I always thought that retirement was going to be out of reach for me, because everyone out there was saying that you needed $1 million or $2 million. And Susie Orman says that you need over $6 million. And I'm like, what the heck? What kind of world are these people living in? But I've discovered that it's just not true. And what a day of liberation it was for me whenever I discovered that it takes a lot less money to retire than what the big boys out there say that you have to have. I mean, really, it doesn't take $1 million or more, and you may not have access to a beach at the place where you live, but wherever you do live, there's something that your community has to offer, and spending a day there is better than spending another day in the cubicle or in the factory or on the job anywhere else. Number 4, well, let's review where we've been so far. This is what convinced me to retire. Number 1, I was experiencing burnout. I had the kind of burnout that sleep, weekends, and vacation didn't fix. Number 2, I just knew that I wanted to be free. Number 3, I was financially ready. And now number 4, I just instinctively knew that it was time for me. It was just a gut feeling on my part. Nothing more, nothing less. And you know, sometimes you just know what you know. Even if you're not able to put it into words yet, or if you're not able to articulate it beautifully yet, you just know what you know. And every time I sat down and weighed the pros and the cons of retiring or continuing to work, retiring versus staying one more year on the job, and so forth, every time I weighed that back and forth, the pros and the cons, retirement always came out on top of the options that I had. And that's why I just instinctively knew that it was time for me. And I just knew that it was what I wanted to do. I didn't need a 15-point checklist to calculate the rate of inflation against the cost of living, or what the stock market projections were going to be over the next 5 years, blah, 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 blah. I didn't need all. We overthink these kind of things. We really do. And we can get so bogged down in those kind of details that we suffer from analysis paralysis, and we never make a move. And in the meantime, life is passing us by. Number 5, when I turned 60 years old, I knew that the next chapter of my life was going to be the final chapter of my life. I knew that the next chapter of my life was going to be the last one. That life is now finite. You know, you reach a point when you realize that time is running out. And so I had to ask myself, did I want to keep on working, or did I want to spend the rest of my life doing things like this? The answer was easy. Wouldn't you agree? Let me see if I can turn this down just a little bit and give you a little bit more of a view out there. There we go. Maybe that's a little bit better. And then number 6, I felt like work, the 6th thing that convinced me to retire was I felt like work was getting in the way of me being able to live the life that I wanted to live. You see, when you first start working, you work so that you can earn a living and build a life. But after several decades of doing that, you've got your life that you work to build, and then you reach a point where your job is holding you back from the life that you really want to live. And I finally reached the place where my job was holding me back from the things that I wanted to do most and the things that I value the most. And that would be things like my family, my friends, having personal time, having my hobbies, my personal pursuits, recreation, so forth and so on. Work had finally reached the place where it was hindering me from living the kind of life that I wanted to live. It was holding me back from living my own life on my own terms, and that was a sure sign for me that it was just flat out time to go. Number 7, a 7th reason that I was convinced it was time for me to retire is I had nothing to gain by working any longer. I mean, if I had stayed on the job any longer, I wasn't going to get any more promotions, I wasn't going to get any more awards, I wasn't going to be achieving any more achievements. I was just at the top of where I was going to go. I was doing the same thing that I'd been doing for the last 10 years. I had nothing to gain by staying there another day longer. And that's true with money. Once I realized that I had enough money, yes, I didn't have $1 million, but I had nothing to gain by staying on the job for the sake of the money by just working one more year. I would have been working one more year and then one more year and one more year. And the longer I would have continued staying on the job, the more that I was running out of time. So number 7 is I had nothing to gain by working any longer. I had reached the point of no return. And then number 8, I had peace about retiring. Now, before you retire and you're thinking about retiring and you want to move into your retirement years, There's a lot of uncertainties out there. There's a lot of things that you don't know about retirement. You just have to figure them out as you go. But even though there was some unanswered questions and uncertainties about retiring, I had peace in my heart, and I knew that it was time, and that's all that mattered to me. And you know what? I pulled the trigger. I retired. It's been 3 years now. 2 years fully retired, and then 1 year semi-retired. And the peace that I had in my heart before then has been fully realized in this new chapter of my life. Well, that's all for now. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you're seeing me for the first time, my name is Ronnie. Thanks for stopping by. And to everybody who has watched the video today, be sure to hit that thumbs up button that you'll find down below, because by doing so, it really helps the channel out. Leave me a comment, because that really helps as well. I read everybody's comments, and I would encourage all of you to read the comment section as well, because there's pure gold to be found in there. I'm really inspired by some of the comments that some of you leave. Again, thanks for stopping by, and stay tuned, because I'll be posting another video from the Gulf Coast very soon. Take care. We'll see you next time.